Good afternoon, Louisiana, and welcome to Odds and Ends here for Monday, November 22nd. It is Thanksgiving week. It is quite possibly the best football week of the year, and it is here. We are powered by bet.NOLA.com and brought to you by the Caesar Sportsbook. I'm Zach Ewing. That's Devin Jackson and Jim Derry. They're much smarter than I am, so I'm going to let them do most of the talking today about the weekend that was. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. Devin's much smarter than me, and then Jim's here too. Jim, how those Buffalo picks work out for you on Sunday?
As well as Trevor Siemian worked out for the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, that's a pretty good analogy, although Trevor Siemian has had a couple of good weeks before that, which I don't know we can say the same for you. So
Trevor Siemian hasn't had a good week in his life since he was born.
You got him rolling his eyes already. The man graduated from Northwestern, man. How can you say he hasn't had a good week in his life?
Oh, I'm sorry. He probably got a 30 on his ACT. Good for him.
Yeah, all right. Devin, you're the smartest one here. Devin just kicked our butts in big bucks all over again. What are you looking forward to this week? Besides everything.
Man, it's rivalry week in college football, so get to see a lot of those old ones renewed. So, a team that's not having a great season can ruin somebody else's season. So I'm very interested in that, although Oregon already got their season ruined. But also see if the Saints can bounce back. It's 3 straight losses now, and you're playing in front of Drew Brees now. It's you got to do something with that quarterback position. So I'm very interested to see what happens going forward for the Saints.
And we will talk plenty of what's ahead. First, we want to take a quick look back at the weekend that was. But even before we do that, let me say that our sponsor, Caesar Sportsbook, would like you to sign up for their app. And we think you should too. Go to NOLA.com/Caesars. You can get your $100 free bet bonus. If you do it before mobile betting launches, you get that bonus. And you can be all set to go when mobile betting does go live, which we're expecting around the first of the year. So that's NOLA.com/Caesars. Feel free to drop us a comment, as Jerry did below. Hill staying with the Saints for 4 years. That is the news of the afternoon. Contract extension for Taysom Hill, a 4-year deal. I think it's base worth $40 million I saw, but it could be worth more than double that, up to $95 million, if he starts a certain number of games over the next 4 years, which at this point, we were just talking off the air, I don't know how likely that is, because if Taysom Hill was not going to be your starting quarterback Sunday with as poor as Trevor Siemian was playing, when is he? When is he ever going to do that? And we'll talk more about that as we go. But as promised, let's take a quick look back at the previous week, which ends tonight, by the way, with Monday Night Football. So Bucs and Giants. I'm all out of order here. This was actually a Monday night game last year in New Jersey, and it was a close game. The Bucs had to come right down to the end to win it. This year it's in Tampa. Bucs -11, over under 49.5. It's a big number, Jim. Are you laying it?
Absolutely. I have a chance to have my first 10-win week in my NFL picks column against the spread, and I need Tampa to cover to do it, and I think they do. They're going to come in pretty ticked off. They're back at home. They've shown this year that they've been very good at home, especially against bad teams, and the Giants are certainly a bad team. And they do get Saquon Barkley back tonight, supposedly. They have a couple receivers back, but I don't think it matters. I think the Bucs will be highly focused and with a chance to begin to run away with the NFC South, and I think they will.
Yeah, and they have been a different team at home, that is for sure. They're undefeated at home. I think they're 4-1 against the spread at home, 3-1 or 4-1. And on the road, they're like 2-4 against the spread. They're only a 500 team. Just have not been the same team. I will say, Devin, Saquon Barkley, as Jim mentioned, is back. Vita Vea is out for Tampa Bay. That may change the equation with the Giants running the ball. And does that change the equation for you overall?
I don't think it matters much. The Bucs know that they have to get rolling. This is about the time last year that they got rolling and got hot entering the playoffs, and we know what happened then. So I think they'll be focused, ready to go. I think they'll still have a tough time running on the Bucs defense, because that's the one thing that they've been good at, is stopping the run. The pass defense obviously has been an issue, but in terms of stopping the run, they've been able to do so this season. So I expect Saquon to struggle. He just really hasn't strung together a consistent amount of games. Injuries have kind of plagued his career. So I expect him to have a decent night. It will probably break off one big run, but I think he'll struggle tonight overall against the Bucs front seven.
Hey, if you like the show, drop us a like in Facebook or YouTube. Feel free to subscribe on YouTube as well, or drop us a comment, and your comment can be on the show. We're here with you for the next 40 minutes or so on odds and ends on bet.NOLA.com. Let's take a look at the week that was in college football. And Jim, you've watched this a lot longer than we have. This might have been the most nondescript LSU game of the past 20 years. I mean, they're playing a team you knew they were going to beat. It was never close, but they were never super impressive. It didn't really matter whether they won or lost anyway. It went late at night. It lasted till after 11 o'clock. I mean, I don't even know what to say about it.
Looks like they got a lame duck coach who doesn't really care, and his players don't care, and they're going through the motions. And I think that's where we are at this point. And it is what it is. It didn't surprise me that it was very lackluster. They're just trying to finish out the string, and I'm not sure that they would beat anybody else in the SEC right now. I think they'd struggle with even a Vanderbilt right at this point. I don't think they care, and I don't think they're going to play like they care this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing about that game is it could have been even closer. They stopped ULM on downs twice inside the 5. If ULM even gets one of those in, this game's coming down to the final minute.
Yeah, I mean, you're struggling with a really bad football team. There's no other way to put who Monroe is. And so, but looking at the rest of this list, I got to say, I was a sucker. I took the bait. I didn't in real life, but I did with our Cardinal picks with Oregon. I knew that line was, whenever there's a line is fishy, I usually take the other side, and I didn't this time. I took the bait.
Same. I was exact same.
And look, it doesn't surprise me that Utah won, but the fact that Utah just rolled over them shows that Oregon never belonged in the playoff picture in the first place, and how silly this is. But if it did one thing, it gave your Cincinnati Bearcats a chance to get in there now. And I honestly, I mean, you got to be. If you look at it, I don't really see a path where they don't get in unless they just completely get hosed, assuming they went out now.
Yeah, I mean, they got to win out, and they have East Carolina on Friday, talking about Cincinnati, and then the difficult one is next week, the American Conference Championship game against Houston, who's a top 25 team. So
that's not difficult.
If they win out, you add another top 25 win. I mean, Houston's going to be 11-1. They're 10-1. They play UConn this week, so they're going to be 11-1. That is a good win. I'm not saying it's a top 10 win or anything. It's a good win if they can get it. Who else are you going to put in over them? Maybe if the winner of Oklahoma State also goes on to win the Big 12 championship, they could have an argument. It's tough to give Notre Dame an argument because Cincinnati beat them head-to-head. It sure looks like Cincinnati.
Notre Dame's out, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sure looks like Cincinnati is in if they win out. The only scenario would be the Big 12 winner. If the Oklahoma State could be a rematch, by the way. If Oklahoma wins, I believe it's a rematch. If Oklahoma State wins, then it could be Baylor against Oklahoma State next week. But
the only other possibility is, and I think it's a slight possibility, is if somehow Michigan beat Ohio State in a very narrow victory, I could see them with some kind of goofiness putting Michigan and Ohio State in there.
The only thing that I can predict with any certainty is goofiness in this whole thing. It will be.
Yeah. So I mean, put it this way: no matter what happens, for them not to get in, they would have to get completely hosed. And I'm not saying that won't happen because we've seen teams get hosed before. And again, I'm not going to go into the whole "it's about money" thing, but it's all about money. But it would have to be something real. It would have to be egregious. And we'd be laughing and not laughing, I guess, but we'd certainly be talking about it for a while.
Devin, give us your take on some of these games. Some super impressive performances. We talked about Utah, but obviously Ohio State beating Michigan State 49-0 at the half. And then Clemson also looks like they're playing like a top 10 team. I mean, Wake Forest is 9-1, and Clemson just took them to the woodshed.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm here. Clemson. The thing about Wake Forest was that they they were never really. I don't really think they were ever a threat to make the playoff. I mean, even if they beat North Carolina last week, or I don't know if it was last week or the week
I think it was
before.
2 weeks ago. Yeah.
I still think they were going to lose at some point. You know, they're just an inexperienced team in terms of winning, and they really don't have the talent that someone like a Clemson does. And then Clemson showed them exactly who they were. But also the Utah game, I kind of saw it coming. I didn't expect it to be a 31-point blowout, but I thought Oregon was in danger of losing that game, and they lost it handedly. So it was one of those weeks where either you're going to make your money or not, and Oregon folded. So Pac-12 was out of the race now, and now it's basically up to Oklahoma State to win out and give the Big 12 a chance to make the playoff. Because if they don't win out, then it's I mean, the Big 12 might be eliminated itself too.
I mean, I think Oklahoma, if they beat Oklahoma State, would still, they're one-loss team also. Whoever wins the Bedlam game is still, they're sort of in the first chair out in the musical chairs. They need something else to shake out for them to get in my eyes. But we'll talk about that in a minute because we do have national championship odds. But it's, and the other thing there was Alabama only beating Arkansas by a touchdown. Arkansas kind of pulled out all the stops. They had a fake field goal. They went deep, very aggressive, and nearly paid off for them. Bryce Young had an unbelievable day, 556 yards, I think it was, passing. Alabama and Georgia. I mean, I don't want to look ahead past the rivalry week, but
throw your mortgage payment on the Bulldogs.
Alabama's going to score points, though.
Throw your mortgage payment on the Bulldogs. It's like free money. It's Christmas.
We will certainly talk more about this next week, but it's a fascinating game. Alabama has only been an underdog once in the past 10 years.
It's only going to be fascinating until kickoff.
And they won, by the way. Alabama did the one time they were an underdog. So we shall see how that goes. Move on to the NFL real quick, just to wrap up the weekend. The Saints, probably less that's said about that, the better, although I'm sure we'll say plenty. They lose 40-29, and it wasn't that close. Bills lose 41-15, and I'm not sure that was that close. Vikings surprise the Packers. Chiefs Cowboys really the only surprise at 19-9, a low-scoring game. Cowboys offense really struggled without Amari Cooper. CeeDee Lamb went out halfway through. Their starting tackle Tyron Smith was out. They just were not the same offense. And then a Sunday night game there, Jim, that was wild and crazy.
Steelers in the back door, baby.
Almost won outright.
Yeah, it was great. It was great for my picks. I had already written that one off. And, they came back and just showed you that the Chargers aren't very good, and because these are two not very good teams. And in this whole wacky, mediocre world of NFL football, if you have any hope for the Saints, that's why you should, I guess, be unlike me and keep your hopes up, because the NFL is so mediocre. There really is no dominating team. Assuming that eventually a change will be made at quarterback, even the Saints are still have a chance. And I say have a chance. They're technically number 7 seed right now.
Right.
They'd be in the playoffs if the playoffs ended, if the playoffs started next week. But there's 7 weeks to go. They have a long, plenty of time to screw it up. But there was some surprising things here. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I was shocked by the Bills score. Not even as much that they lost, but just were thoroughly dominated. So, they couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop Jonathan Taylor for sure. But most of these other games didn't really surprise me very much. I had the Vikings just about everywhere. I thought the Bengals would win. I didn't think they'd win by 19 points, but
and that game was closer than that. That game was a 1-score game midway.
Yeah, they had 10 points there scored in the end,
yeah.
But the Raiders aren't very good. So if you look when we do look ahead this coming week, I have been lucky enough to stay alive in my knockout pool, and there are only 15 out of 540 left. And let me tell you, this might be the toughest week I've ever had to pick a game, because if you look at the week ahead, it is super, super tough.
Yeah, I think I was looking next week in the NFL, and we'll do look-ahead lines here toward the end of the show, but there is not a single line of more than 7 points, and that's the Raiders-Cowboys on Thanksgiving. That's a 7-point line, and I don't know that you can trust it. Now, The Raiders are a mess, but are you trusting the
I
Cowboys?
have to. I have to. I don't have a choice. I'm going to have to.
So that's that is certainly interesting. I did want to point out too, in the Thanksgiving Day games: Bears against Lions, Raiders against Cowboys, and then of course Saints against Bills. All 6 of those teams lost yesterday, and they have short weeks, and so it's going to be sort of a desperation Thursday on Thanksgiving. And I think Saints Bills is probably encapsulates that more than anybody, because the team that loses that game is in full on panic mode.
For sure. I mean, for sure. And especially, again, we talk about the mediocre NFC. The Saints can really afford to. I was talking about with Fletcher Mackel this morning on Datitude. I mean, theoretically, the Saints might be able to go 8-9 and still make the playoffs. The Bills, I mean, they need to play games at home. They need to play games at home in the playoffs, and they're in serious danger now of a surging Patriots team that has now taken the lead on them in the NFC East. I mean, the AFC East. And, I don't know if this Patriots team is going to slow down anytime soon. So the Bills are going to have to step up their game a little bit.
Yeah, and by the way, the Bills host the Patriots right after this, the following week. It's a Monday night game, so they actually kind of get a mini bye there, a little advantage for the Bills. But they host the Patriots. They still play them twice, so that division's still up in the air. But you're right, Jim. Let's bring it back to us. I mean, we can talk about the Saints for a minute. 9-8 is going to get you in the playoffs in the NFC. I'm pretty certain of that if you look at the landscape. Right now, the Saints are the 7 seed, as you mentioned. They're actually tied with the 49ers at 5-5. They would have the tiebreaker if the season ended right now on strength of schedule. But you have a whole bunch of teams. You have the Eagles, who are just, I think, 5-6. You have Minnesota's the 6th seed now. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah,
I think
that's right.
They're also 5-5, and so they're in it. I think we can bury the Seahawks at this point, but the Panthers are still in it. The Falcons are still in it. I mean, it's like you read some of the teams that are still in it, like Washington. These are bad teams, but a couple of them are going to get in, and the Saints could be. If we said before this stretch, the 2 road games in Tennessee and Philly, and the 2 tough home games with Buffalo and Dallas, if they could go 2-2 and hold serve, they're going to be okay because the schedule gets a little lighter. Well, they lost 2, but I'm actually at the point where I think if they can just split the next 2 and go 1-3 in those 4 games, they're still okay, because you still get the Dolphins down the stretch. You still get the Jets. You still get the Panthers again, the Falcons again. Their last 5 games, you got to play at Tampa, but other than that, they're very manageable. And so the Saints, Devin, they're not in desperation mode just yet, but they do need to start winning.
Well, they have to figure out something on offense, because I don't even think it's just about winning the games. It's about getting something going offensively. I mean, you can go in and beat a Dallas, go and beat a Buffalo, but if your offense does the same thing they've been doing the past month and a half, you're not going to get very far in the playoffs anyway. So they have to figure out, and that I think they'll be able to make the stretch, but it's like you have to make a decision on, because it just feels like when they're out there with Trevor Siemian, I'm not trying to like put him down or say he's not great or anything.
I'll
like
do
that,
it for you, Devin.
I was going to say, Jim will do that in a second. Yeah.
But it just doesn't seem like the team has any energy when he's out on the field, that kind of matters, to offense, that you got a bunch of guys that are kind of playing out of position. I mean, the receiver group, a lot of these guys don't expect to be number 1 receivers. And, the tight end position as well. Troutman actually had a solid game yesterday, but something has to change with the offense. And, whether or not it's going to be Taysom, whether or not it's going to be Ian Book or whatever they decide to do, I think before they can think about, the scenario, playoffs, et cetera, they have to figure out their offense, because the defense is just getting gas from being out on the field 3/4 of the game every single game.
Jim, we had a mini argument, I guess, via text yesterday, where I said, listen, you said Sean Payton's stubborn. He's going to do what he does no matter what. I said, okay, fine.
You're reading my mind.
But he is going to play the quarterback who gives him the best chance to win, is he not? I mean, he's not stubborn to the point of wanting to lose games. So it has to be the case then, logically, that Trevor Siemian is who he thinks gives the Saints the best chance to win a game.
What I'm about to say is absolutely going to rile you up, and I can't wait to see your reaction to this. I'm not sure he wants to win. I got to be honest. Did you watch yesterday? You're losing by 14
Not for long.
points.
Not for long.
You're losing by 14 points. You actually make some kind of fluke comeback. I'm not even sure how they did it, to be honest.
They've done it 3 weeks in a row, really. I mean,
I have to go back and watch the
game.
game. Well, here's the thing. It's not just they actually were back in it. You're talking about 10 minutes to go, and you're only down by 2 touchdowns. They get down into position to where they can make it a 1-touchdown game. It's 4th down and I believe 9 at somewhere 20-something yard line. And he kicks a field goal. It made 0 sense. You know what that screamed to me? I don't want to win this game. So this was after we were texting. I wanted to say, I don't know that he wants to win. Why would it makes no sense that he doesn't want to win. But there's something going on. He keeps playing this guy who is an awful quarterback who gives this team no chance to win. And then he does silly things like kick field goals when you need 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, well, and that is more illogical than the Tennessee decision to kick the field goal when you're down by 11. I mean, you had a better chance against Tennessee, and so that one riles me up more. You might be right. That doesn't – honestly, I'm not even angry at that take because – it explains a whole lot if he doesn't want to win, right? Like, I don't know why that would be. It's not like they're going to be top 5 draft pick next year, even if they lose out.
The week before, they're on 4th and goal to 1. Sean Payton would never, ever, ever, ever kick a field goal there, ever in the past 15 years. I've watched him for 15 years. He would never kick a field goal there, even if he was only 20% sure he would make the touchdown there. He would go for the touchdown. Always. He's the one that says, if you can't get a yard, you don't deserve to win. And for them to kick a field goal in that spot last week, 2 weeks ago, and then yesterday, do what they did yesterday, it makes no sense. So there's only one explanation. For some unknown reason, he's putting it in his – he would never leave Trevor Siemian in at 27-7 at halftime. Ian Book wasn't dressed out, and I didn't even know this till Devin told me, but he wasn't dressed out. So which means that Taysom Hill had to be ready to go play the game because you don't know if Simeon's going to get his leg busted or whatever, and you have to play Taysom for potentially an entire game. If it happens in the first quarter, it means Taysom was ready to go. So if Taysom's ready to go and you don't make the switch at 27-7, and then you kick field goals when you need to have 14 points late in the game, there's only one explanation, and I wish you would tell us because it shows to me you don't want to win. You don't care. What is the reason?
Did anybody ask him about that field goal? I did not see an explanation for it.
They're too scared to ask him.
Yeah, that bothers me. I wish they had because I would like to know. Hey, you're watching Odds and Ends here on Bet.NOLA.com. Zach, Devin, and Jim with you. We are brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook. Encourage you to go to NOLA.com/Caesars to sign up for the Caesars Sportsbook app today and get ready for mobile sports betting in Louisiana. Devin, as always, we're going to ask you to talk some sense into the both of us here.
Good luck.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start with this. The field goal cannot be defended in my mind, but I mean, you tell me, Devin, can you think of a reason he wouldn't want to win? I mean, it's not like they're going to get a top 5 draft pick at this point. It can't be that.
I don't know. It has to be there has to be something going on, whether it's like between him and the coaches or something. But I just have a feeling like there has to be someone in that locker room that's like, look, like he's not giving us the best chance to win, but maybe he's trying to prove him wrong. I don't know what he's trying. I'm trying to rationalize in my mind, like, why would he decide not to change quarterbacks if it was that bad, or decide not to go for touchdowns in the fourth quarter? Like, to me, like, if you're putting effort into trying to come back in the fourth quarter, like, trying to score, what's the point of kicking field goals at that point? It's like you're just getting points to get points. Like, that's a first quarter, second quarter decision. Like, if you just need points, you just need them. But to like not kick the field goal there, it just like
even the sad thing, Devin, is I think even if you're in the second quarter and you're down by 14 points, I think you're going for it there. I mean, that's why it really made no sense. When you really need it, you don't have a choice. I mean, so it's something earlier in a game you would probably go for it, and you're still doing it when you have to have it. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't even help him cover the spread, all right? Like, at least against Tennessee, the field goal helped him cover the spread. I know that's not what he's doing, but even from that, it didn't make any sense.
And why won't any of our colleagues ask the question? Are they so scared of this man, of being ostracized and him not calling? I mean, what are we like? It's like you're sitting in the Oval Office and you're talking to Trump. I mean, you're scared that he's going to blast you or something if you ask him a question he doesn't like. I mean, it's getting absurd. At
least with Tennessee, you know what his argument is. Okay, got us within one possession. That was my focus. I don't agree with it. We went over this last week. I think it was stupid, but at least you have that argument. You don't have an argument this week. It got us within 11 points with 8 minutes to go. We were going to get the ball back and score 11 points on our last possession.
Even thinking about it from a player perspective, like that's a momentum killer, especially for the defense. Yeah, they just stopped them 2-3 straight times.
3 straight times, and then they let them go down the field after the field goal. They're like, "Well, if you don't care, I don't care."
Yeah, so it's like you could see like a shift because like the defense was more hyped up, after making stops. They were more behind the offense, and then they were going down and scoring in a couple minutes time, and then you kick the field goal, and you could just feel kind of like you're not at the game, so you can't really tell, but you could see like the defense, like, what do we have to do? So yeah. I feel like the
game's over at that point, right? I mean, it's
and then not only that, they give them the lob ball. I don't know who it was that asked him. I hope it wasn't one of our guys because I couldn't hear the voice real well. I really hope it wasn't one of our guys that asked him this. Boy, you had all those injuries. Like, here's your excuse, please. And he even said, "Thank you for the question." I mean, here's your excuse. Let's get some. I don't know who did it, but it was like one of the third question asked. I mean, we're going to give them all the excuses. We're going to give Simeon excuses. We're going to give the team no more excuses. Okay. You look, the other teams in the league that you're playing aren't that great. I mean, the Eagles aren't that great. Okay. They got a losing record for a reason. The Giants aren't very good. The Falcons have not scored a touchdown since they played the Saints, and they've scored 3 points total since they beat the Saints. So they're not any good. Okay, so let's don't make excuses for who's here, who's not here, blah, blah, blah. In fact, I'd love somebody who's watching right now to offer a comment on what they think, and if there's something that I'm saying or we're saying that isn't right, because frankly, it's the only thing that I leave with watching the Saints the last 2 weeks, not so much against Atlanta, the last 2 weeks in particular, is just frustration and ticked off. And why am I wasting my time watching this except I have to for my job? Because if I didn't have to for my job, I really think I would have walked out the door at halftime yesterday.
Spend a Sunday with your family out in the sunshine. Before, just to kind of wrap up the discussion, because they play Thursday, the Saints had to release an injury report today. And they did not practice today. And so this is what they call a simulated injury report where, hey, if you had a practice, who would have practiced and who? It's one of these stupid NFL things, but this is what they do. And so looking at that injury report is very full, of course. But the good news is both quarterbacks, Taysom Hill and Trevor Siemian, they say would have practiced in full. So they will have their choice of those two, apparently. Limited practice. Yes, good news. I know you're laughing at that. Limited practice, Mark Ingram, Teron Armstead back up to a limited practice, so maybe a chance he plays on Thursday, and Ty Montgomery. Now, the bad news, did not practice or would not have practiced Alvin Kamara, Ryan Ramczyk, and Marcus Davenport and Adam Troutman, who both got injured on Sunday. And if that's the case, if that quartet is missing, Kamara, Ramczyk, Troutman, Davenport,
I can't see Troutman playing this week. I don't know about Davenport, and I don't know how bad Kamara. I mean, Kamara, the last time he was hurt and missed a couple of games, he was never the same again. That was a high ankle sprain, so that's a little bit different. But at this point, it's getting to the point where why risk injuries to your key guys? Hold them out until you get this winnable stretch of games, because you're not beating Buffalo, and I don't really think you. I mean, you could beat Dallas, maybe. You're not winning this week. They're not winning.
Buffalo's got its own plethora of problems, man. They're a mess too. So I don't know that I would go that far.
Had I not used my knockout pick on Buffalo already, I would use them this week. The Saints are not winning this week.
Okay. I'm taking Saints +4. I'll say it right now.
Okay, good.
I don't know if they'll win, but I'm taking Saints +4.
That makes me feel a lot better about my Bills pick.
Okay. Wow. Who's winning between us and Big Bucks again?
I know who's winning the Carville picks. That would be me.
I'm about 2 picks behind you now. It's all right. I'm right on your tail.
That would mean I'm winning.
Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see. That wasn't the question. All right, let's move back to college just for a minute. I do want to look at the CFP championship odds, which we're coming down to. There's really only 8 teams that can win this thing at this point, and those are the 8 teams listed here. Georgia, no change from last week. The number you see in parentheses is what it was last week. So Georgia's still -120. Ohio State has moved into number 2 position. They're at 3-1. Alabama now 4-1, and then of course it drops off after that. Cincinnati looking like the most likely to get into the playoff, but they would have to most likely beat Georgia and then beat the Ohio State. Actually, Cincinnati could be the number 3 seed, actually, if we're thinking about it. It could be Georgia, Ohio State, Cincinnati. And so Cincinnati would have to beat Ohio State and then beat the Georgia, Oklahoma winner, or whoever it might be, Georgia, Alabama winner, whoever ends up in that 4 spot. And so then you get into the long shots. Odds, interestingly enough, Michigan's odds dropped from 40-1 to 50-1. I'm guessing that's just because Ohio State looks so good and Michigan's got to get through them. And then odds improve for both Oklahoma State and Notre Dame. But what do you make of this?
It's setting up perfectly for them. When people wondered, I mean, Cincinnati, Alabama, they can leave Cincinnati at 4. If Alabama loses narrowly to Georgia, they can leave Alabama at 3, which is what they want to do. They want Alabama and Ohio State to play. They want Cincinnati, Georgia. They could hype the rematch from last year's great game that wouldn't be a great game this time. So it's really kind of setting up perfectly. You leave Alabama at 2. So I think that's what's going to end up happening. Now, if Alabama gets blown out, you're not going to have a choice. You're going to have to move them before. But it's kind of working out the way they want it to work, which is usually what happens.
I think if Alabama gets blown out, they're out of the playoff and the Big 12 winner gets in, if the Big 12 winner has only 1 loss. What gets real interesting is if Alabama gets blown out and the Big 12 winner has 2 losses, then Georgia, Ohio State, Cincinnati, or Georgia, Ohio State, or Michigan and Cincinnati are all in. And then the question becomes, who the heck gets the 4 spot? Is it 2-loss Alabama? Is it a 2-loss Big 12 champ? Is it a 2-loss Michigan who lost to Ohio State?
It's Alabama.
It becomes. I mean, if they get blown out by Georgia, you're going to make them play them.
What define blown out first off?
3 touchdowns.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I think they still get in. It's Alabama.
And so you think that if Georgia beats Alabama 35-14, that
are you asking me what I would do or what they would do?
No. I'm asking you what I think that they would do, because it is goofy. But
Alabama has to lose by they have to not only lose by 3 or 4 touchdowns, but they have to look like they deserve to have lost by 5 touchdowns to not get in.
Is it so goofy that you would then have Georgia and Alabama immediately play again? Because it would be 1 versus 4. They'd be playing again.
And people would watch it. It still gets money.
Well, people are going to watch it.
But I will say this, though, and I'm sure Devin will speak to this, and especially on Thursday. But I'm not so sure Alabama's going to win this week.
TJ Finley ain't beating Alabama, man. If it was Bo Nix, I'd give Auburn half a chance, because Bo Nix occasionally looks like Johnny Manziel, like once out of every 5 weeks. TJ Finley doesn't have the experience level to do that. I don't think. Devin, what about you?
I don't think. I think Auburn's chances dropped significantly because they lost Bo Nix. I mean, they're coming off a loss to South Carolina. And, South Carolina, I mean, they somehow got the bowl eligibility after being Florida and Auburn back-to-back. So that's a miracle.
They got Dan Mullen fired.
Hey, in between those games.
I will argue
between
LSU
those games,
kind of got them fired.
I'm sorry, Devin, but back-to-back, it wasn't back-to-back, because in between those games, South Carolina went to a little place called Columbia, Missouri, and took that L. just to set the record straight.
Your alma mater is...
Go ahead.
But back to the question. I don't think I don't give Auburn much of a chance against Bama. I just think they just haven't been playing good enough football. Really, the last month of the season to really make a push. I think they can make it an interesting game first half, but I think that's going to run out in the second half. Alabama knows they have to win out and face Georgia. I know they could be looking ahead already since they already wrapped up the SEC West, but it is a rivalry game, and I do expect Alabama to come out on top. But when I look at this odds list, I actually like Cincinnati here. I think I would put some money down on them to win a national championship.
Whew.
Because I think we have seen such craziness this year. I know Georgia has been outstanding, but it just feels like one of those years that we think we have everything figured out, and then all of a sudden, a team that we didn't expect to wins the championship. And Cincinnati's starting to turn it on at the right time. You know, they blew out a decent SMU team on Saturday, and if they continue to do so, I mean, I would not want to face Cincinnati in the first game. I honestly think if it ended up being Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, and Cincinnati, I think Cincy may give Georgia the hardest time.
I agree.
Look, Georgia would win, I think, because it's difficult when you play a team that plays your style, sort of this grinded out defensive ball game, and they're just more talented than you. But it would be difficult for Georgia to win that game by 30 points or whatever. I mean, they would have to grind it out 24-13 or something like that. You know, they just have to sort of like be tougher than, and I think they are tougher than Cincinnati. I think they'd win, but it would not be easy. Just like it wasn't easy in the Peach Bowl last year. Now, this Georgia team is better than that, but it would certainly be an interesting matchup. Let's look ahead to the last week of the regular season here in college football, here on Odds and Ends. This is lucky week 13, Thanksgiving week, rivalry week. Starts on Thursday with the Egg Bowl. Little surprise, Mississippi State is the favored team in the Egg Bowl by a point. I believe that game opened up as a pick, and it's moved 1 point in Mississippi State's direction. But that'll be fun. If the Saints start getting blown out by the Bills, you have something to flip the TV to on Thursday night for sure. Then on Friday, Cincinnati at East Carolina. Cincinnati minus 13.5, trying to complete the unbeaten regular season. And then on Saturday, of course, the big rivalry games, Ohio State catching 8 points or laying 8 points. Alabama minus 19.5. Oklahoma State minus 4. And this is a game that opened at like 1.5. And it's just the steam has just been going toward the Cowboys hard, all the way up to 4 points. And then finally up at the top, you see A&M just less than a touchdown favorite at Tiger Stadium.
Yeah, when I look at this line, I just feel like that Oklahoma State game is a trap. Because as much as Oklahoma State has looked good this year, for whatever reason, whenever they play Oklahoma, they just forget how to play football effectively. And this happened like last year, and then even the last couple times Oklahoma State was kind of hyped into the game. They just got blown off the field by Oklahoma. Like I don't know if that's still going to hold true on Saturday or not, but I don't know if I would take Oklahoma State. This seems like take Oklahoma early in the week and just run with it, because I just do not feel confident that Oklahoma State is going to beat Oklahoma by 4 more points. It just does not feel like that type of game.
I just don't think Oklahoma's any good. I think they're lucky to be 10-1. They got beat pretty badly by Baylor. They were lucky to beat Texas. They were lucky to beat, well, I don't know about lucky, but they had to really fight off Tulane. I understand they changed quarterbacks. They were lucky to beat Iowa State. That was a strange game where it's tied right before half. I don't know if you guys saw that. Iowa State is in field goal range in the last minute of the half, and then a sack fumble. And instead, Oklahoma gets a 60-yard scoop and score instead, and they go into the locker room up by a touchdown, and that decided the game. Really, I just don't think Oklahoma's any good, Jim.
I agree. I don't know who I'll take here yet, but I don't think they're good either. But I also agree with Devin. I don't know what it is about Oklahoma State saying those red helmets with the OU on it that just scares them. But to me, I look at this thing, and you get about one real true gift, I think, every other week or so in college football, and there are 2 of them on this list, in my opinion. I think Texas A&M and Ohio State, if you need to buy Christmas presents for your kids, then take whatever whatever money you were going to take to buy those Christmas presents. And no, I'm kidding about that.
Don't do
really
that.
do that.
Don't do that.
Don't really do that. But I joke, but I'm not kidding about, to me, I think A&M and Ohio State are some of the easiest favorites you're going to see this week. Why Ohio State is only laying 8 at Michigan, who just Jim Harbaugh can't beat a good team. I mean, he just can't beat a top 10 team. And Ohio State has got a point to prove. They've been proving it the last few weeks. And I think they're going to go at Michigan and do it again. And just, I mean, they're going to do what they do against Michigan.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one for me.
LSU just doesn't care. Texas A&M is liable to win that game by 3 touchdowns.
Ohio State looked fantastic against Michigan State, right? I mean, just unbeatable. And really the same way the week before against Purdue. I mean, it just looked like that offense can't be stopped. But rewind 3 weeks, and they could barely beat Nebraska. Rewind 4 weeks, and they could barely hold off Penn State. I don't know, man. I mean, Michigan's easily the best team they played all year. I don't know. That's a lot of points for a road team. I know what you're saying. I know what it feels like. I'm not 100% sure on that. I still have not decided how I'll pick. And then the only thing I'll say about LSU is when is Coach Orgeron at his best? It's when you count him out. And everybody's counted him out one last time. And maybe he doesn't, and maybe the players don't. Can't you just see the Les Miles getting carried off the field after beating Jimbo Fisher? I mean,
no. No. I mean, I can see Jimbo Fisher getting carried off, man. You know what would be funny is if Jimbo Fisher beats the heck out of LSU and then goes and puts an LSU shirt on right after.
Goes into the LSU press conference.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm the new head coach. That would be fantastic. I don't think it's going to happen.
That would be a great movie script. The hell with the Rudy scene.
Yeah. Believe me, I would flip from Bedlam to watch the post-game press conference of that thing. So
that'd be good stuff.
Yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt about that. Look, it's a great weekend of college football. I mean, even besides these games, Nebraska, Iowa is going to be good. You guys know Nebraska. They play on Friday. Nebraska's 1-7 in the Big Ten. They have a positive point differential in Big Ten games. That's impossible.
It still bugs me they don't finish with Oklahoma, though.
If they lose this week by 6 points or fewer to Iowa, they will be 1-8 in the Big Ten and still have a positive point differential because I think it was Northwestern they beat by like 56 points, and they've lost every other game by 3 to 6. It's impossible. But yeah. That's where Nebraska's headed. So that's their Georgia Tech, Florida State is going to be some real sicko stuff. Like Dan Mullen gets fired at Florida, and so I don't even know who's coaching it. Has anybody heard who's coaching the Gators this weekend?
Oh,
Florida State's not.
Will be the least attended Florida State game in history. I've actually covered one of those things, and it's crazy. And I don't think it's gonna be crazy this week.
Listen to this. I got to give Andy Staples credit of The Athletic because he was the one who first put this idea out there. But can you imagine? You want to know a way to boost some attendance? Let the old ball coach be your interim coach for one game. Let the old ball coach come back, Steve Spurrier, for one game and see what happens in Florida State. I would lay my house on the Gators if Spurrier came back and coached that game. He would find a way to beat the Noles one more time. I know he would.
See, but then it would be like the Saints starting Taysom Hill and he actually does well. Then you'd have a controversy. People would want him to come back for good.
No, but Spurrier could put that to bed. He could come after the game and say, look, yeah, Spurrier comes out. Look, I'm almost 80 years old. I own a restaurant. I'm retired. I just came back to have fun for 1 week. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and good night. But he could put that to bed right away. But it would be so much fun. Just 1 week. Scott Strickland, I know you're not listening to us, but maybe somebody can send him the recording, please. For 1 week, Steve Spurrier. Then it would really be some sicko stuff. So, speaking of sicko stuff, Georgia and Georgia Tech is going to be an absolute murder. Clemson, South Carolina is always great. Louisville, Kentucky. I mean, it's just a great weekend of football.
I'm trying to tell my dad not to turn the TV on this week. He's a Georgia Tech alum, so.
Oh, no.
I told him I think it's not a good week to watch football, Dad.
What was it, like
Notre Dame
55
and
to nothing?
Georgia. Notre Dame and Georgia back to back to end the
Yes.
season. Oh man,
It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad.
Yeah.
All right. Before we go, one last look ahead at Week 12 in the NFL. Of course, it starts on Thursday with the Thanksgiving Day games. Bears are -3.5 at the Lions. The Cowboys 7-point favorites at home against the Raiders, and then the Bills -4 at the Dome. Jim, I guess you and I are going to lock heads on this one because I like the Saints to come back and play well. I think you've kind of given up on Sean Payton. I still think he might not be the smartest man in the room like he thinks, but he's still pretty darn smart.
He's the smartest man in the room. I guarantee you, whatever he's doing, there's some evil plot behind all of it. I'm not saying he's not the smartest man in the room. He's certainly
maybe the evil plot
is
was to rest all these guys and have Kamara and Ramchick and Armstead come back for the Bills and Cowboys and beat them both at home.
I don't think it matters, but sure, if you want to do that, no, there's some more devious, sinister plot. I don't know that we'll ever find it out, but yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But I'm going to tell you what doesn't make sense, and I'm not jumping off the Bills Saints because I do want to. I know we got to sign off soon and all that, but I do not understand the Patriots Titans line at all. There is no way in hell the Patriots ought to be laying 5.5 to the Titans. See, no, it doesn't make any sense. I get the Titans stunk up the joint last week, but they beat the Bills, they beat the Chiefs, they beat the Rams on the road, they beat the Saints. We're talking about 3 weeks ago teams that were supposedly the best teams in football, and the Titans beat them all. And I get that Derrick Henry's not there and that they laid an egg last week, but we talked about why, and that was one of my bets of the week. If you look at big bucks and you take off where I had the Bills everywhere, my second biggest pick, and it was my number one pick in my NFL picks column, the Titans getting 10.5. And I even said, don't take Titans in the survivor pool. It was a bad week because where it sat between a bunch of really good teams and then looking ahead to the Patriots, it just was not a great spot. And then it rained on them, so that made it even worse. So they couldn't throw the ball very well. But that line makes no sense right now, and I'll be all over the Titans this week. I can tell you that.
That's a fair point, Jim, because the NFL playing NFL games, gambling on the NFL is all about reading where the overreactions are. Patriots look like world beaters. They look like they're going back to the Super Bowl the last couple of weeks. They're not that good. Titans laid an egg against the Texans. They're not that bad. So
100%.
You're right. And the Titans
that
had 5
turnovers.
3. Yeah, the Titans had 5 turnovers. So I don't know. Yeah, I think you're right about that. And then another sort of overreaction line. Well, I guess I can't say that yet about the Bucs and the Colts because the Bucs haven't played tonight, so we don't know. But the Colts playing so well now, they're getting less than a field goal against the Bucs. That line may change after tonight, but that's an interesting one too. Rams Packers, the big afternoon game. Browns Ravens is the Sunday night game, which the last time they played in prime time was the Lamar Jackson, I gotta go game. He comes back out.
Yeah, that's right.
that
was a Monday night game, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was a Monday night. This is a Sunday night game, so hopefully we get some sort of repeat of that drama. Not specifically,
and he came back, and then they didn't think he'd come back, and he came back because the backup quarterback got hurt, and then he came back in and led him to victory.
The I gotta go game.
That's great.
So we'll see what happens this week, but just another great slate of NFL games. Devin, what sticks out to you in this list?
Definitely the Patriots line. I feel like everyone is ready to crown them as the Tom Brady type Patriots where they are unbeatable now. So that line definitely sticks out to me. There's a huge overreaction to the Patriots being better than they were to start the season. Because, there's people thinking they can make a Super Bowl run all of a sudden now. So that was definitely the one that stuck out to me. And then the Bills and Saints line. I don't know if I would actually touch the line. I'd probably take the over in the game. I think it's at 46.5, I think, or something like that. I can't remember.
The Saints have had the Saints have had 3 or 4 overs in a row. They've also
I'm taking over.
They've had some unders they've had some totals that were really kind of skewed, almost gifts. What scares me about taking the over in that is I'm not sure the Saints are going to score all that much because they're not going to do what they've been doing. And if they dig themselves a hole, they're not climbing out of this one. They're not going to score garbage points against this team because they're going to be ticked off.
The Bills are also facing some of the same cover 2 shell defense the Chiefs got and frustrated them. And it's frustrating Josh Allen. They've had some explosions, but the Bills are not the offensive juggernaut that they've been all year either. But anyway, Devin, you were saying.
Yeah, I would just say I'd probably take the over in the game if I took anything. I don't really feel confident about the line because the week that you don't take the Saints is the week that they decide to put everything together and look like a competent offense again. So that's why I don't even like messing with the Saints lines because they've been so hard to figure out all season long. And then the Colts are. I think people are starting to come around to that the Colts could be a playoff team. They look really good against the Bills. They kind of figure out their recipe for winning, and that's running the ball with Jonathan Taylor. So as long as Carson Wentz isn't throwing the ball 30, 40 times, I think they can be okay and get some wins they're not supposed to, like yesterday. So we'll see how that line changes. But if it's over 4 or 5 points, I don't know. I might take the Colts again this week.
All right. Well, speaking of this week, let's tell you our plans for the rest of the week. It's a big one. Tomorrow afternoon, Spencer Urquhart and myself will be here for the Fantasy Roundup. I'm thanking the fantasy gods for Austin Eckler today, and we'll talk more about that because he saved my butt last night. 4 touchdowns, 110 total yards or something. So we'll talk. Spencer and I will talk about that. We'll have your waiver wire pickups, all of that for a big fantasy week. Then on Thursday at the Book, we'll actually be at the Book. I will be live at Harrah's, New Orleans during the Cowboys-Raiders game. We're going to go live at 4 p.m. on Thanksgiving. So after turkey dinner, before turkey dinner, whatever you can, log on to bet.NOLA.com, our Facebook page, our YouTube page. Check it out. And we'll preview Bills Saints all the way from Harrah's. You can see the scores of people standing in line waiting to get their bets in and then heading over to the Dome for that game. And then, we'll have Cashing In with Carville that day too. He'll make his picks. You can log on to NOLA.com/cashing-in to make your picks. And then we'll do it all again next week, next Monday afternoon, odds and ends right back here at 4 o'clock. And talking about the weekend that was, setting up the championship week in college football. And I'm sure there might be a little bit of talk about the Saints quarterback situation and Sean Payton. We don't talk a lot about that, but we might get to it next week.
Well, it depends on how the game goes.
That was sarcasm, by the way. We're going to talk about
it. That's on you. You run the show, so.
Okay. I'm going to put a moratorium on saying anything about Sean Payton or Trevor Siemian next week and see if Jim can follow it, because I don't think he can.
Can I hold up signs?
That would be Love Actually style. That would be fantastic, actually. I know it's Christmas time, and at Christmas you tell the truth. Trevor Siemian sucks. That would be fantastic, actually. I'm on board with that idea.
Okay, I'll have my daughter draw some out. She's good at it.
Let's do it. 4 o'clock tomorrow, Fantasy Roundup. 4 o'clock on Thursday at the Book, live from Harrah's, New Orleans. The Saints play 7:20 Thursday night. Until then, for Devin Jackson and Jim Derry, this has been Odds and Ends, brought to you by Caesar Sportsbook. I'm Zach Ewing. Have a good day.